Silence pressed against the walls of my apartment like an unwelcome guest. Ever since the lockdown started, my world had shrunk to these four walls, my only escape being the glow of my laptop screen. I kept a strict routine. Wake up, work, eat, sleep. It kept me sane. At least that's what I told myself. Then, little things started to feel off. At first it was subtle. A spoon left in the sink when I was sure I had put it away. My phone charging in a different outlet. The living room curtains slightly parted when I always kept them closed. I chalked it up to stress, to the long days blending into each other. Then came the food. I knew exactly what was in my fridge. I barely went outside to buy groceries. But one morning, my carton of milk was half empty when I had just bought it 2 days before. The loaf of bread had fewer slices. The peanut butter jar had been moved. Something felt wrong. The unease crept in at night. I started double-checking the locks before bed, making sure every door, every window was secure. Yet every morning something seemed slightly off, like my apartment had exhaled in my sleep. Then, one night, I woke up to a soft creak. My bedroom door was open. I never slept with the door open. Ever. My heart pounded as I reached for my phone. The room was dark, but I could see the faint outline of the doorway. I listened, holding my breath. No movement. No sound. Swallowing my fear, I got up and checked the apartment. The front door was locked. The windows were latched. Everything seemed normal. But a strange smell lingered in the air, damp, musty, like old clothes left in the rain. I barely slept after that. The next morning, I told myself it was just a draft. Maybe I hadn't shut the door all the way. Maybe I was just being paranoid. But deep down, I knew better. Paranoia tightened its grip on me. I tried to ignore it, tried to convince myself that I was just overthinking things, but the feeling wouldn't go away. Every night, I double-checked my doors and windows. Every morning, something felt disturbed. Then, the final straw. I left my keys on the kitchen counter before bed. When I woke up, they were on the coffee table. I hadn't touched them. That was it. I needed proof. I ordered a set of small hidden cameras online, motion-activated, night vision, all connected to an app on my phone. I placed them strategically. One in the kitchen, another in the living room, one near the front door, and a final one in the hallway outside my bedroom. I told myself it was just for peace of mind, that I'd review the footage in the morning and laugh at how ridiculous I was being. That night, I went to bed with my phone next to me, cameras recording. I was so sure I was imagining things, I was wrong. The next morning, my hands trembled as I unlocked my phone. I wasn't even sure what I expected to see. Nothing, probably. I opened the app and scrolled through the footage. Most of it was still. Empty rooms. Silent hallways. Then, at 2:43 a.m., the hallway camera picked up movement. My breath caught in my throat. I watched as my closet door, inside my bedroom, began to slowly open. A figure emerged. Thin, hunched, pale skin stretched over sharp cheekbones. He moved in eerie, calculated steps, navigating through my apartment like he had done it 100 times before. He walked to the kitchen, opened the fridge, and drank milk straight from the carton. Then he turned, moving toward my bedroom. He stopped at the doorway and watched me sleep. My vision blurred as my heart slammed against my ribs. The footage continued. After standing there for what felt like forever, he backed away, vanished into the ceiling. I wanted to scream, to run, to do something, because now I knew I wasn't alone. I couldn't breathe. My whole body locked in place as I replayed the footage over and over again, hoping I had imagined it. But the video didn't lie. That thing, that man, had been inside my apartment, watching me, living above me. A slow, creeping realization settled in. He was still here. The attic hatch. I turned my gaze upward, heart hammering. The ceiling panel near the hallway looked off, shifted slightly, just enough to be noticeable. My stomach churned. Then I heard it. A soft creak above me. He was moving. My fingers fumbled for my phone. I barely heard myself speaking to the 911 operator. My voice was shaking, my breath ragged. Then, another sound. Something slid across the attic floor. Closer. A single footstep. Then another. I gripped the kitchen knife with white knuckles, backing slowly toward the front door, afraid to make a sound. The operator was still talking, but I barely processed her words. I was too focused on the silence above me. The awful, waiting silence. Then, a thump. Louder this time. He knew I knew. Blue and red lights flashed outside as heavy boots pounded up the stairwell. I flung the door open the second I heard them. The police didn't hesitate. They pulled down the attic ladder. The officers climbed up, flashlights cutting through the darkness. I held my breath. Then, a scream, a scuffle, a loud thud. 2 officers dragged him down. He was barely human, thin to the point of looking skeletal, his skin covered in grime. His eyes were hollow, wild, darting around like a trapped animal. But the worst part, the way he smiled when he saw me, like he had been waiting for this moment. The officers pulled him away, and I finally dared to look up. The attic was worse than I imagined. A filthy mattress, piles of wrappers and empty bottles, pieces of my missing belongings, a notebook. One officer flipped through it, his face twisting in disgust. Then he looked at me. "You're gonna want to see this." I didn't want to see it, but I had to. The notebook was filled with entries about me, my routine, my sleeping habits, what I ate, conversations I had with myself when I thought I was alone. The final page was worse. One sentence written over and over again. She never looks up. I moved out the next day. Even now in my new apartment, I still check the ceilings. Every night. Because I'll never forget the last thing he whispered before they took him away. "You almost found me so many times." Lockdown had turned the world into a ghost town. No cars on the streets, no people in the parks. Just an eerie silence, stretching for miles. While most saw it as isolation, I saw it as opportunity. People were craving entertainment. They wanted something raw, something real. And what's more real than a live ghost hunt inside one of the most haunted places in Ohio? That's where St. Mary's Asylum came in. Abandoned for decades, swallowed by urban legends. People who entered never came out. The last known explorer, a local thrill seeker, had vanished in 2012. No body, no clues. Just a single distorted phone recording found on a nearby road. So naturally, I decided to go. I wasn't a huge YouTuber. 200,000 subscribers, mostly urban exploration and creepypastas. But this was going to blow up. The plan was simple. Enter alone. Stream everything live. No cuts, no edits. Let the audience react in real time. At exactly 11:47 p.m., I parked a few blocks away from St. Mary's. My heart pounded as I stepped onto the cracked pavement, my breath fogging up the cold air. The building loomed in front of me, a dark skeletal outline against the moonlight. With a deep breath, I hit Go Live. The chat flooded in instantly. Spooky Fan 23. "Bro, this is insane. You're actually doing it?" A ghost watcher. "Last guy who went in never came out. Careful, man." Dark watcher. "You shouldn't be here." That last comment made me pause. Dark watcher. I had never seen that username before. The words felt more like a warning than a troll. I shrugged it off and pushed forward. The side gate was rusted shut, but with a hard shove, the metal groaned open. Beyond it, a shattered glass door led into the lobby. The second I stepped inside, the temperature dropped. Breath visible. The smell of mildew and something metallic clung to the air. I panned my camera across the room. Broken gurneys, scattered papers, a rusted wheelchair sitting in the center facing the entrance as if someone had left it there for me. The chat kept rolling. Horror junkie. Man, this place looks like something out of a nightmare. Nightmare Seeker. Is it just me, or does that chair look recent? I laughed nervously. Relax, guys. Just an old hospital. No ghosts yet. Then something flickered at the edge of my vision. I turned sharply. The wheelchair had moved. Just an inch. I stared at it, heart hammering. Then, a crash from down the hall. The chat exploded. The real spook. WTF was that? A Dark Watcher. Leave. Now. A deep breath. My fingers trembled around the flashlight. Guess we're not alone after all, I whispered, and I walked toward the sound. The hallway stretched ahead, lined with shattered doors and peeling wallpaper. The air felt thicker, like stepping into a different atmosphere. My boots crunched over broken glass, each step echoing into the dark. I held up the camera, letting my viewers take in the eerie surroundings. All right, guys. Whatever made that noise came from down here. Maybe just ping. A comment popped up, cutting me off. Spooky Fan 23. Dude, who's that behind you? I froze. My breath caught in my throat. Slowly, I turned the camera, aiming it back toward the lobby. Nothing. Just empty, shadowy corridors. Nah, man. Not falling for that. I forced a chuckle, but the chat kept spamming. Ghost Watcher. No joke, I saw a face behind you. Nightmare Seeker. It was peeking from the doorway on the left. A cold shiver ran down my spine. I glanced at the left doorway, a dark, open patient room. The door was slightly ajar, as if someone had just ducked inside. Something about the way the darkness pooled there felt wrong, like it had depth, like it could swallow me whole. I gripped my flashlight tighter. You guys are messing with me, right? Then the static hit. The live stream glitched, screen distorting in unnatural pixels. A sharp, high-pitched whine pierced through my earpiece, making me wince. And through the distortion for a split second, the chat froze. One single message appeared, bold and alone on the screen. A Dark Watcher. He sees you now. The static cleared, and the door to the left creaked open. Every instinct screamed run, but my feet wouldn't move. A deep, suffocating silence filled the corridor. Even the chat stopped moving, like everyone watching had collectively held their breath. I raised my flashlight, aiming it into the doorway. The light barely pierced the blackness inside. Nothing. Just an empty hospital room. I swallowed hard. Okay, that was... Then, from the hallway ahead, a dragging sound. Scrape, scrape, scrape. The chat exploded. The real spook. Bro, WTF was that? Nightmare Seeker. Nope, 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 get out. The sound grew closer. I turned the camera toward the noise, the far end of the hallway. For a moment it was empty. Then, movement. A tall humanoid figure emerged from the shadows. Its body was unnaturally stretched, features too obscured to make out. But the worst part? It wasn't walking. It glided. Not smoothly, not naturally. Like it was being pulled forward by invisible strings. Chat lost its mind. Spooky Fan 23. It sees you. A Ghost Watcher. Do not move. My breathing turned shallow. The flashlight flickered. Then just as suddenly as it appeared, the figure vanished. I blinked. The hallway was empty again, like nothing had ever been there. I checked my live feed on my phone, and that's when I saw it. In the tiny preview window, the shadow figure was still there, standing right behind me. I spun around so fast I nearly dropped my phone. Nothing. The hallway stretched empty behind me, the dim flashlight beam flickering against the decayed walls. My pulse pounded in my ears, but the chat was still going crazy. Spooky Fan 23. Dude, it's still there, WTF. A Ghost Watcher. Check the mirror. Now. Dark Watcher. Too late. My stomach twisted. Further down the hall, a shattered mirror hung crooked on the wall, its fractured surface reflecting slivers of the hallway. I stepped closer. The glass was dirty, coated in years of dust and grime. But through the cracks, my reflection stared back at me. Except, it wasn't copying my movements. I lifted my right hand. It didn't. I tilted my head. It stayed still. I took a slow, shaky breath. This isn't real. This isn't real. Then, my reflection blinked, and I didn't. A single icy breath touched the back of my neck. I bolted. Down the hallway, past the shattered mirror, past the doors that should have been empty but felt like they were watching me. The chat exploded. The real spook. It's following you! Nightmare seeker. Run faster! A dark watcher. You can't outrun him. I didn't dare look back. Doors on both sides of the corridor started slamming shut as I ran past them. Bang, 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 each one louder, closer, like the hospital itself was pushing me forward. The stairwell was ahead, my only way out. Then, the air turned ice cold. The lights cut out. I stopped. The silence pressed down on me. No more footsteps, no more doors slamming. For the first time since the live stream started, the chat stopped moving. I checked my phone. The feed was still rolling. Then a single new comment appeared. Dark Watcher. Look behind you. My flashlight flickered back on, and standing at the bottom of the stairs, waiting, was him. I couldn't breathe. The figure at the bottom of the stairs was motionless, its head slightly tilted. No features, no eyes, just a dark outline of something that shouldn't exist. The chat was completely frozen. I lifted my phone, aiming the camera at it. My hands trembled so much that the screen shook, but the live feed showed something different. In the live stream, I wasn't standing in the stairwell. I was somewhere else. A windowless room with cracked greenish tiles. A single rusted wheelchair sat in the center, and I was in it, strapped down. A man, no, a doctor in a decayed lab coat, stood next to me, his back to the camera. He was holding something sharp, a scalpel. I gasped and lowered the phone. I was still in the stairwell. The figure was still there, but now it moved. Step by step, it glided upward. I had seconds. I threw myself into the first open door, slamming it behind me. The room was small, a storage area filled with rusted medical equipment. No windows, no way out. And then, a whisper directly in my ear. You shouldn't have come here. I screamed, spun around. No one was there, but something was wrong with the air. It felt heavy, dense, like I was breathing in static. The phone screen glitched violently, colors inverted. The chat exploded back to life, except the messages weren't from my viewers anymore. They were from me. Nathan Live. Help me. Nathan Live. He's coming. Nathan Live. I can't leave. Every hair on my body stood up. My own account was posting messages. And then, the door burst open. I don't remember running. I don't remember how I got out. All I remember is suddenly standing outside, my van in front of me, my hands still clutching the phone. The live stream was dead. The video never saved. The chat history was gone. It was as if the whole thing never happened. For days, viewers messaged me saying the screen had gone black right before the ending. Some claimed they saw something in the last frame, a face inches from the camera, but no one could prove it. No files, no replays, nothing. I tried to move on. But sometimes at night when I check my phone camera, I see a tall, shadowy figure standing behind me, watching, waiting. And then, last night, I got a notification. Your live stream is still broadcasting, but my channel doesn't exist anymore. I clicked the link. The stream was live, but I wasn't the one holding the camera. I should have listened. I should have locked my windows, turned off the lights, and waited like everyone else. But curiosity is a dangerous thing, and I learned that the hard way. It started on a Thursday evening. Every TV screen, radio station, and phone notification blared the same message. Emergency Lockdown Protocol 77 is now in effect. Close your doors, lock your windows, and under no circumstances should you look outside. Await further instruction. Non-compliance will result in immediate consequences. There was no reason given, no explanation, just orders. At first I thought it was some sort of cyber attack, maybe an AI glitch or a government drill. But then I checked my phone. Social media was in chaos, everywhere. People were posting videos of empty streets saying things like, "It's too quiet. Something doesn't feel right. Where is everyone?" And then, one by one, the videos started disappearing. By 9 p.m. the power flickered. The Wi-Fi cut out. A deep, unnatural silence settled over the city. I wasn't alone that night. My best friend Matt was over, along with Kara and Jason. We were supposed to have a game night. But instead, we were sitting in my dimly lit apartment, staring at the TV, which had turned into a black screen with a single white message: "Do not look outside." And then the whispers began. At first, we thought it was the wind. A low, raspy hum drifting through the apartment complex, seeping in through the walls. It wasn't coming from the TV. It wasn't coming from the hallway. It was coming from outside. Kara grabbed my arm. "Do you hear that?" Jason nodded, his face pale. "That's not wind." I don't know what made me do it. Maybe it was defiance. Maybe it was stupidity. Maybe it was the way the streetlights were flickering in a rhythmic pattern, like they were trying to communicate. But I took a step toward the window. Matt grabbed my wrist, hard. His voice was low. "Dude, don't." I hesitated. Jason swallowed hard. "People online said if you look, you disappear." Kara's voice was barely a whisper. "So let's not test it." I should have listened. At exactly 10:03 p.m., there was a knock at the door. Not a normal knock. It was slow, calculated, and deliberate. 3 taps, a pause, 3 more. Knock, 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 knock. We all froze. Jason shot me a look. "You expecting someone?" I shook my head. My throat had gone dry. Matt whispered, "Don't open it." We waited, breathless. The knocking continued. 3 knocks, pause, 3 knocks. And then we heard the doorknob turn. Matt shot up, ran to the door, and locked it with shaking hands. "Who the hell is that?" No one answered. And then Kara gasped. "Guys, the peephole." The light in my hallway was off. But through the peephole I could see something standing there. Not a person. A tall, thin silhouette, arms too long, fingers tapping against my door in sync with the knocks. And then, it bent down. The peephole went black. The air in the apartment felt wrong, heavy. And then, just as suddenly as it started, the knocking stopped. Matt exhaled. Jesus. Kara sat down, knees pulled to her chest. What the hell was that? Jason pulled out his phone, cursing under his breath. "Guys, check this out." He showed us a live stream from another part of the city. Someone else had ignored the warnings. On the screen, a man was filming from his apartment, his camera pointed outside. The street was empty, too empty. And then, the streetlights flickered. For a second, we saw something standing in the middle of the road. Tall, still, featureless, watching. And then, the live feed cut to static. My stomach dropped, and then, the whispering started again. Louder this time, closer, right outside my window. I don't know why I did it. Maybe it was the fear. Maybe it was the daredevil part of my brain that wanted to prove none of this was real. But I reached for the curtain. Matt hissed, "Don't." Too late. I pulled it open, and I saw it. It was right there. Not outside, inside the reflection. I gasped, staggered back. The thing was looking at me through the glass, except its back was turned, like it wasn't really in the street, like it was inside the mirror dimension, staring back at me through the wrong side of the glass. And then, it moved, not by turning. It unfolded, arms bending in impossible ways. Its neck cracked as it twisted, its body stretching toward the window, toward me. I slammed the curtain shut, and everything went silent. We didn't sleep. We sat there, in the dark, afraid to make a sound. At 3 a.m., another announcement came on the TV. A single sentence, repeated over and over in a calm, robotic voice. "You have been seen." My pulse pounded. No, 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 no. Jason's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You looked?" And then the lights went out. For the next few hours, we heard things moving outside. Shuffling, scraping, knocking at random doors. At 5:45 a.m., it finally stopped. At 6 a.m., the power returned. At 6:15 a.m., another broadcast. "The lockdown has been lifted. Thank you for your cooperation." We exhaled. Maybe it was over. Maybe we were safe. Maybe we had survived. 2 days later, Jason disappeared. His apartment was empty. No sign of a break-in. No struggle. His phone was found on his kitchen counter. The screen showed his last text message. "It's still watching." Matt and Kara refused to talk about that night. But me, I still hear the whispers. And every now and then, when I pass by a mirror, I see something standing behind me, waiting. I don't know if I'm crazy or if something really happened to me during lockdown. I haven't talked about this in years, but I need to get it out. It started in the 3rd week of quarantine. I lived alone in a small apartment in Chicago, working remotely, barely talking to anyone except for video meetings. The days blurred together, but the nights were different. Every night at exactly 2:37 a.m., I heard footsteps in the hallway. Not normal ones. Slow, uneven, like someone dragging one foot behind them. At first I thought it was just one of my neighbors having trouble sleeping, but the sound always stopped in front of apartment 405. The problem? Apartment 405 had been empty for months. I knew because I'd overheard the building manager talking about it before lockdown. The last tenant, an old woman, had died alone inside. No one had moved in since. And yet, every night, those footsteps came back. One night I asked Carl, the old maintenance guy, about it. "Don't worry about it, kid, just ignore it." His voice was flat, his face tight, like he knew something but wasn't going to tell me. That was when I noticed another detail. The door to 405 was always slightly open, never closed, never fully ajar, just open enough. I started checking every morning, always the same. One night I got curious. I stood outside 405 and listened. Nothing. Then, something clicked inside, a single small noise like a lock sliding open. I backed away. I didn't sleep that night. The next day I accessed the building's security cameras from the resident portal. The hallway footage showed nothing unusual at first. I fast-forwarded. 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 2:30 a.m. Then at 2:37 a.m., the motion sensor light flicked on, but there was no one there. The light stayed on for exactly 33 seconds, then flicked off. I rewound it, played it again. Nothing. But then, something changed. At exactly 2:37 a.m., the door of 405 opened a little more, on its own. I closed my laptop. I wasn't going to mess with this anymore. But that night, at 2:37 a.m., I did something stupid. I got up, walked to my front door, and I looked through the peephole. At first I saw nothing, just the dimly lit hallway. Then very slowly, the door to 405 swung open. Not all the way, just a little more. I felt a wave of cold air crawl over my skin, and then a shadow moved inside. I staggered back, heart pounding. I double-locked my door and got back in bed, but I didn't sleep. I couldn't. Because at 2:41 a.m., I heard breathing on the other side of my door. The next morning, I tried to convince myself it was my imagination. Sleep deprivation, lockdown paranoia. I went to check the hallway. But when I cracked open my door, there were wet footprints on the carpet, starting from 405, stopping right in front of my door. I slammed the door shut and bolted it. I wasn't staying here anymore. That night, I decided to leave in the morning. First thing, I packed my stuff, threw everything into my suitcase. But at 2:37 a.m., something changed. The footsteps were faster this time, louder. And then, they didn't stop at 405. They stopped at my door. My lights flickered. My phone vibrated. A notification. Motion detected outside your door. I opened the app with shaking hands. The camera feed glitched for a second. Then I saw it. The door to 405 was wide open, and standing in front of my door was a figure, tall, thin, its head tilted at a sickening angle. But the worst part? I could see through it, like a heat shimmer, like something wasn't fully there. It knew I was watching, because as soon as I looked at it, it looked back. I dropped my phone, and then, bang, the thing slammed against my door. I grabbed my keys, my wallet, my shoes. I didn't care about anything else. I had to leave. I cracked open the door, just an inch, and the hallway was empty. The door to 405 was closed, like nothing had ever happened. I ran. I drove to a friend's place and never went back. Months later, the building went under new management. I got an email. Urgent. Records indicate your key fob was used to access apartment 405 multiple times during lockdown. Please confirm if you were a tenant of this unit. I never responded, because I never went inside that apartment. At least, I don't remember going inside.